Hello, Elevate the Soul Academy students. This is Master Course of Inner Peace and Healing, and we are starting a new series, which is the Empath's Survival Guide. Yay! I'm going to do my best to condense this book as much as possible, but also at the same time, I know a lot of us get affected by what's in this book, and I think it's also very important for us to understand why we experience what we experience, why we feel things the way we do, why we handle things the way we do, and this understanding the codependency and being an empath. You know, if you once you do the assessment, which we'll cover in this class, it's going to really help build the foundation even stronger. And we can get to the rest of the course, which is Emuna and Bitachon. And Bezrat Hashem, you guys will leave this course with being a completely different person, with a completely different mindset, a lot happier, not having to really get bothered by every little bit that goes on in your life. So the first chapter that I'm going to be discussing is Introduction to Empathy. Are you an empath? So the lady that wrote the book, Dr. Judith Orloff, she has been, I don't know when this book was published, but whenever this book was published, it states that she has been a physician for over 15 years, and she got her training at USC and UCLA. And she states that she is an empath and she specializes in treating highly sensitive people. And there's a spectrum of sensitivity that exists in every single human being. There are human beings that have zero sensitivity to absolutely anything. I'm sure that's classified like as a sociopath or something, where they have like no emotion, no nothing. And then you got the general people, I feel for you, okay, whatever, but they're still in their own world. And then you got the ones that are like overly involved with everybody else. So empaths are emotional sponges. We're energy sponges who absorb both the stress and the joy of the world. We feel everything so often to an extreme and have little guard up between others and ourselves. As a result, we are often overwhelmed by excessive stimulation and prone to exhaustion and sensory overload. With a show of hands or with a quick comment, who can relate to that? Good. So in order to thrive in our life, we must learn ways to avoid taking on other people's energy, symptoms, and stresses of others. And this book will also help educate our loved ones how to deal with empathic people. And not only that, this book also teaches how to deal with empathic children. So let's get into the more scientific definition of what exactly is an empath. Empaths have an extremely reactive neurological system. We don't have the same filters that other people do to block out stimulation. As a consequence, we absorb into our own bodies both positive and stressful energies around us. One example this is not from the book. I'm saying one example. If you are next to someone that's energetically toxic, right? And you're talking to this person, you feel this person is very toxic. Out of nowhere, your stomach starts turning and you feel sick. You're absorbing that person's energy into your inner circle. So that's what an empath is. We absorb our environment, our surroundings, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, everything all together. Now, once we learn how to have the proper boundaries and do shieldings and meditations, we will suffer less and less and less. And we could still have this amazing ability to be able to connect on such a deeper level without having to be overly involved. So empaths can be very sensitive, that it's like holding something in a hand that has 50 fingers instead of 5. We're truly super responders. Research shows that high sensitivity affects approximately 20% of the population. I personally think it affects a lot more than 20% of the population, though the degree of one's sensitivity can vary. Empaths have often been labeled as overly sensitive and told to get a thicker skin. As children and adults, we are shamed for our sensitivities rather than supported. We may experience chronic exhaustion and want to retreat from the world because it often feels so overwhelming. Now, with this section, how many can relate? Now, one of the things that took me a while to understand, I didn't understand I was an empath until maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I opened up my supernatural group. That's when I learned about it and when I did my homework. So for over 30 years, having to deal with people that constantly called me oversensitive and grow a thicker skin, or the best, hold on, what's wrong with you, was very hard for me to deal with. And then once I got this book and I learned where all my sensitivities are coming from and why I have been different my whole life and how I can change it, this book for me was an absolute life changer. Absolute life changer. I was able to understand my pitfalls, where I needed to have my boundaries, also more specifically with how I react. So I'm very thankful that I added this into the course, because I believe that many who are into inner peace and healing and all that jazz, chances are they are somewhere on the higher scale of being an empath. And this is very much needed. So let's talk a little bit more about the empath experience. What is the difference between ordinary empathy and being an empath? Ordinary empathy means our heart goes out to another person when they are going through a difficult period. It also means that we can be happy for them during their times of joy. And then we go back to our own world. However, as an empath, we actually sense and we pick up on people's emotions, energy, physical symptoms in our bodies, with some, doesn't happen with all, without the usual filters that most people have. And even more so, I've noticed that empaths are able to read between lines, being able to hear things that are not verbally expressed. They're able to see the fear, hurt, and anger behind the smile. We are super sensitive to tone of voice and body movements. I don't know about you guys, but when I speak with someone, their tone of voice and their body language can tell me almost everything about them. It's like I'm able to read them like an open book. And even with body movements, you know, someone could, I'm going to use the word pretend to be happy and joyful and, you know, a social butterfly and whatnot. A normal person that doesn't have these extraordinary abilities will say, hey, this person has their life all together. Look, partying, having a good time, having a great life. But people like us, when we see that kind of a person, we can sense, we can feel the hurt, the anger, the sadness that lies underneath it. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, I didn't even continue reading, and it even says over here, we can hear what they don't say in words, but communicate non-verbally and through silence. Empaths, we feel things first, and then we process and think, which is the opposite of how most people function. First they think, and then they decide if they want to feel or not. There's no membrane that separates us from the world. This makes us very different from other people who have had their defenses up from the time that they were born. Empaths share some or all traits of what a psychologist, Elaine Aron, calls highly sensitive people, or HSPs. These traits include a very low threshold, not very low, but like a low threshold for stimulation, the need for alone time, sensitivity to light, sound, smell, plus an aversion to large groups. In addition, it takes highly sensitive people a lot longer to wind down from their day because our system's ability to transition from high stimulation to quiet is a lot slower than a normal person. And we also love nature and quiet environments. Now there's a very, I don't know if it's a small portion of highly sensitive of empaths, but a lot of empaths are able to feel and sense energy, not just coming out from a person, but from an environment as well. You walk into a house or you walk into a store and either you have an amazing feeling or the second you walk in, you just want to get out. The vibe is just for you. So a lot of empaths have that extra sensitivity to energy. Since everything is made up of subtle energy, including emotions and thoughts, physical sensations, we energetically internalize feelings, pain, and various physical sensation of others. And we often have trouble distinguishing someone else's discomfort from our own. Also, some empaths have profound spiritual and intuitive experiences, which aren't usually associated with highly sensitive people. Some empaths are even able to communicate with animals, nature, and their inner guides. But being a highly sensitive person and an empath are not mutually exclusive. You could be both at the same time. So I'm going to go over general types of empaths. Do you guys want me to read slow so you can write this down? Or do you guys want to wait until I type it up on the computer and send it via email? I'm still going to talk about it and go over it. Okay. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is just going to be easier for everybody if I just email the general types of empaths. So therefore you can have it as your guide through this section, okay? So the first type of a general empath is physical empath. You are especially attuned to other people's physical symptoms and tend to absorb them into your body. You can also become energized by someone's sense of someone's sense of well-being. So this is physical empath. You could write down physical empath and you could put a check mark next to it. Emotional empaths. You mainly pick up on other people's emotions and can become a sponge for their feelings, both happy and sad. Intuitive empaths. You experience extraordinary perceptions, such as heightened intuition, telepathy, messages and dreams, animal and plant communication, as well as contact with the other side. The following includes the different types and how they function. So these, what the type of empaths I'm going to be covering right now, go under the category of intuitive empaths. Okay. Telepathic empaths receive intuitive information about others in present time. Precognitive empaths have premonitions about the future while awake or dreaming. Dream empaths are avid dreamers and can receive intuitive information from dreams that helps others and guides them in their own lives. Dream empaths also have a high tendency of being able to do astral projection. Mediumship empaths can access spirits on the other side. Plant empaths can feel the needs of plants and connect with their essence. Earth empaths are attuned to changes in our planet, our solar system, and the weather. Animal empaths can tune into animals and communicate with them. I would like to share what I have, what categories I fall under on. And then I would like for you guys to share as well. So in response to physical empaths, I get that at times, not so much. It's not one of the dominant categories, with me. Emotional and intuitive are the most dominant that I have. Now, in the intuitive, I'm considered telepathic, precognitive, dream empath, mediumship, earth, not really so much with plants or animals. Who would like to be the first one to share what they have?
I'll go.
Okay.
um, Physical empaths for sure, because sometimes when I dive in for people, I actually feel their pain. And then before I go to sleep, I have to like pray that pain away from myself. Um, Sometimes emotional, it just depends. I think maybe the anger emotion brushes off on me, but also when people are really happy, that really helps me. That's why I try to have lots of happy people around me. And the intuitive, definitely mediumship, plant, earth, and animal. Because, like my plant right now is telling me, you didn't water me on Sunday. Why didn't you not water me? So I got to take care of that. Earth, I grew up on the farm. So like the weather and everything affects me. Like daddy taught me some things, but then it's like sort of like I knew before he even taught me things, like what to watch for, what kind of cloud was going to bring rain and stuff like that. And then animals, people call me like a cat whisperer and a dog whisperer, which I love, which I'm really, really miss having pets. Terribly miss having pets. So
That's amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
you're welcome.
Who else would like to share? Or do I need to call on somebody?
I'll go.
Okay.
So kind of similar to you, I didn't discover, I had no clue what an empath was until I was probably close to 40. So yeah, it took me a while. For me, I pick up more on what people don't say before I actually pick up on the whole body appearance, facial, what they're saying stuff. But they kind of go hand in hand. Plants, not so much. Animals, not so much. Mediumship, absolutely. And I have also discovered, just like in the last 5 years, I would say earth. I'm just one of these people who happens to know what I know. And I know that I know it, but I don't know how I know it. And then if I try and explain it to you, I can't, I just know. That's me, 100% all the way around. I also have 4 of my 9 children who are highly empathic. My husband, Oliver Shalom, was highly empathic, and he never ever learned how to shield, and I think it ate him up.
Wow.
So it's not surprising to me that I have all these children that are also highly empathic.
Wow. That's amazing. Both of my kids are also very highly empathic, especially my daughter. I told her to, she had a very hard time with the situation that she was dealing with. And she was absorbing her friend's emotions and everything that her friend was going through, so much to the point where she took it upon herself to feel the way her friend is feeling.
Oh, wow.
And when I told her, I'm like, you need to read this book. She started reading it, and she barely gets to the 2nd chapter, and she starts crying her eyes out. I'm like, what's wrong? She was like, this book read me like an open book. I'm like, continue reading. This book is good for you. And now, thank God, Baruch Hashem, totally different. And now she could understand what's her emotions, what is her friend's emotions, what belongs to her, what doesn't belong to her, you know, breathing techniques that she's doing. And it's, wow, yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure.
Would anyone else like to share?
I'll share. I thought when I first read this book that I had more of this abilities, but I don't think I have any, except maybe the intuitive, where I could just read between the lines of people. And I was wondering if it's actually something I had or something I picked up from my husband, because he's definitely very, I don't know which one he is, but he's definitely, I would just say intuitive. He's not telepathic or anything, but he's like, can figure people out like on the dime. Like, it's amazing. As much as I tried with plants, I mean, I have a garden, but they just don't like me anyway. And animals, I don't know, they run away from me. But I was thinking maybe the dreams, because I remember as a child being able to I had dreams, and then like, I guess I would have deja vu moments or things would happen, but I didn't know what to do with them. So I don't think that I was able to develop that or anything. And now, as like I fall asleep, I don't even know that I'm dreaming, or I wake up and I'm like, I can't remember anything. So, because that would be a bummer. I mean, that'd be really cool if I could develop that. But anyway, so it's kind of like, oh, I wish I had more, but that's good for now.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So you see, all of us have some kind of aspect of being an empathic within us, you know, whether if it's in this category or that category, to this degree or to that degree. Jennifer, you want to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. So I kind of was getting what you were saying on like the definitions, but I know I have to rewatch or just see. But I definitely have the pet empath. One, how I pick up on what they're feeling or what they're thinking or what they need, you know.
Yeah.
The intuitive, big time. Don't ask me how I know things. I just know. That's all I ever say. Don't ask. I just know. Definitely get the physical. Although I've been getting better with shielding, where I'm not getting so drained from other people's energies as much. The telepathic one, I think I might actually have, but I'm not. That one I wasn't 100% sure, because
You're very much a telepathic empath, because you receive intuitive information about others in present time.
Hey,
You know, my diagnosis, for example, you were spot on with before I was officially diagnosed.
that was the definition I didn't hear very well. That's why I was like, I don't know. But I was gonna say that, like, I could be talking to somebody on the phone and I will already know whether they're telling me the truth or lying to me without me having to see their face, without me having to hear anything. I just know. I also get the dream one that you were talking about. Like, I literally feel like I have a little bit of all of them, honestly, but there's the intuitive, the telepathic, and I want to say the animal one is like my strongest ones. I don't know why that is, but they kind of all wrap together for some weird reason. But I think the dreams comes right behind all those, because I've been visited in dreams with the mediumship and stuff. It's been family, but I've also been told that I talk. I have full-fledged conversations in my dreams, and that's usually probably when I'm meeting the other side. I'm actually talking, and I'm talking out loud, so people hear me and they wake up and they go, "Is she awake?" And I'm not awake. I'm fully asleep. And So yeah, and I've been like this, I want to say all my life. All my life. You know, there's not a dull moment. But with plants, no, unless they're the aquatic kind that go in a fish tank, I'm not so good with those things. I leave it to somebody else. So I get told that I have the blue thumb because they're in the aquarium versus
The
no.
green thumb with plants.
Yeah, the green thumb. Like I look at them and I go, "Oh, you're so pretty. I want to take you home." And I'll be okay, but then I got to remember I have a cat. So my cat will either eat it or it won't get enough light or whatever it is, just case may be. But if I can throw it in the aquarium, it's good. It's golden. It's like that's where I need to be. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. But thank you for clearing up that telepathic one because I was like, that's the one I couldn't hear 100% what you were saying.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Now, one may wonder, before I'm going to get into how does someone become an empath, and I wanted to just clarify that an empath can be an introvert and an extrovert. And it could also be an introvert that converted and became an extrovert, or the other way around, an extrovert that became an introvert. And sometimes they could be a combination of both. But how does someone become an empath? Many factors contribute to this. The first one, being born with it. Now, how can you tell once a baby is born if they're an empath or not? You can actually see it the second they come out of the womb. They're much more responsive and sensitive to light, smells, touch, movement, temperature, and sound. And speaking of this reminds me of when my daughter was a baby. You know how sneezes, you know, they can be loud, they can be not so loud, but it's something that's just like a split moment sound that just happens. So every single time when either I sneezed or when my husband sneezed, my daughter was so sensitive to sound. She still is till this day, by the way. She started crying, like as if the whole house came crashing down. It got to the point that if my husband and I felt that we needed to sneeze and we were around our daughter, we literally had to either run outside or run to a place that's far away from her and try to sneeze with our nose covered, just so she wouldn't panic and cry. It was those sudden noises that triggered her. It was like that ever since she was a kid. And same thing with light, and same thing with smells and touch. Now, if you're not born an empath, how does one become an empath? Is it like a magic wand or something? Is it something that you got to meditate on? What makes a person become an empath in the middle of their life journey? So Dr. Judith Orloff created, I guess you could say, a statistical survey with the patients that she's been treating. And she noticed that patients that have experienced early childhood trauma, such as emotional, mental, or physical abuse or neglect, or were raised by an alcoholic, depressed, or had I have no idea why my Zoom just went mute. Can someone tell me where I left off? That was so weird.
You were talking about, it's like page 9. You were talking about how she did a survey of the patients that she
Can
had.
someone please tell me where I left off, because somehow something muted my phone.
I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Okay. You were on like page 9 where she's talking about she surveyed her patients and a lot of them had trauma in childhood.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Shoshana.
Welcome.
So early trauma, early childhood trauma, emotional, mental, physical, psychological abuse, like all kinds of abuse fall under that category, or raised by alcoholic, depressed, or narcissistic parents. As a result of their upbringing, these children typically don't feel seen by their families, and they also feel invisible in the greater world that doesn't value sensitivity. This hits my spot. I'm sure it hits a lot of you too. Now let's get more into the science of empathy. There's a couple of scientific findings explaining the empath experience that are just absolutely fascinating. And the most fascinating thing about this is empathy is more of a metaphysical aspect because it is revolving around energy that cannot be seen or understood at very deep levels, and yet it could somehow be explained by science. So the first section that she goes into with the science of empathy is the mirror neuron system, which is a group of brain cells that are responsible for compassion. Empaths have hyper-responsive mirror neurons. You know, other people just have it regular. Ours is hypersensitive on a much higher level. 1 second. And mirror neurons are triggered by outside events. For example, when a spouse gets hurt, we feel hurt too. When our child is crying, we feel sad as well. And sometimes we even shed tears. That's happened to me up until, what, 3 years ago? When I used to be so intertwined and connected with my son. And when he would be so sad, you know, that he was on the verge of tears, I started crying for him. You know, that's how deep, you know, we feel emotions. And Baruch Hashem, I learned how to put my boundaries and, you know, understood, like, I feel for you. I understand that you're sad and everything, but I still kept that safe emotional, not distance, but that boundary. In contrast, though, on the other side of the spectrum, the complete opposite side, psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists are thought to have what science called empathy deficient disorders. And we're going to be getting into that. It's in chapter 5. I think I'm going to be covering it either in the 3rd or 4th class. This means that they lack the ability to feel empathy the way others do, which may be caused by an underactive mirror neuron system. The next thing, electromagnetic fields, EMF. Our brain and our heart generate on electromagnetic fields, yet when there's a high rate of EMF in the area, we get affected by it. How? The first thing it does, it drains us. Sometimes it energizes us. But these electromagnetic fields are very, 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 I wouldn't say important, but it's one of the main triggers of being an empath, being sensitive to electromagnetic fields. Like, for example, if you walk around the street and you have those, what's it called? Where they have those power lines, that big lot of like power lines, whatever it is, I can't walk near that. I walk near that, I get dizzy. You know, my body is being responsive to the electromagnetic fields that's being spurted out. Another thing, emotional, I don't know how to pronounce this word. Contagion?
Contagion.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Emotional contagion. So basically, emotions are contagious for us. And the third finding enhances the understanding of empaths and the phenomenon of emotional contagion. Research has shown that many people pick up the emotions of those around them. For instance, when a crying infant will set off a wave of crying babies in a hospital ward, or when one person is loudly expressing anxiety in a workplace, can spread it to other workers. People commonly catch other people's feelings in groups. The next topic, increased dopamine sensitivity. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that increases the activity of neurons, and it is associated with pleasure response. Research has shown that introverted empaths tend to have a higher sensitivity to dopamine than extroverts. Basically, what this means is introverted empaths need less dopamine to feel happy. And that could explain why they are more content with alone time, reading, meditation, and need less external stimulation from parties and large social gatherings. Now, the next one, synesthesia. And this is the fifth finding, which she finds particularly compelling, which is called the mirror touch synesthesia. It's a neurological condition in which two different senses are paired in the brain. For example, seeing colors when you hear a piece of music or tasting words. Now, I know that this is pretty rare, but I have heard of people that can see colors when they hear music, or they taste words. They know what it tastes like. I haven't run into anybody like that, but I have heard many stories regarding this. Now, what areas of life does empathy affect? Number one, it takes a heavy toll, if not a heavy toll, then a big chunk of it, at least, on our health. Not just physical, mental, emotional, psychological, the works. Second, addictions. And this is not just, with alcohol, drugs, or food. It could also be to cigarettes or habits or specific things that they do that they just cannot get it out of their system, and they have to do it on a deal. It's like they have to do it. And they do that in an attempt to numb their sensitivities. Overeating is common in some empaths. Unwittingly use food to ground themselves. Empaths can easily become overweight because of the extra padding provides protection from the negative energy. In chapter 3, we will look at healthier coping mechanisms. That's what she says over here in the books. But addictions is also a big thing. It could also be verbal habits. It could be many things. The next area of life that empathy affects us is relationships, love, and intimacy. This is where most empaths fall into the category of codependency, most. And we also have a tendency to get pulled or pull in toxic people. And again, we will be covering that in either class 3 or class 4 of the series. Parenting. We often feel especially overwhelmed and exhausted from the intense demands of child rearing because they tend to absorb their children's feelings and pain. Yep. I know, I get super exhausted. Also with work and with me, extraordinary perceptual abilities. Now we're about to do an assessment. So you don't need to write down the questions. You could just write yes, no, mostly yes, or mostly no. And I'm going to give you time to, answer that and calculate it. And then you'll understand what kind of an empath you are. So I want to ask, does everyone have a paper and pen ready? If not, can you please go get a paper and pen? And let me know when you're ready. Jennifer, can you get a paper and pen? Okay, perfect. Bina and Shoshana, you guys have a pen and paper?
Yep, all good.
Okay. So this assessment is, are you an empath? Have I ever been labeled overly sensitive, shy, or introverted? You could write yes or no. Do I frequently get overwhelmed or anxious? Do arguments and yelling make me ill? Do I often feel like I don't fit in? Do crowds drain me? And do I need alone time to revive myself? Do noise, order, or nonstop talkers overwhelm me? Do I have chemical sensitivities or a low tolerance for scratchy clothes? Do I prefer taking my own car to places so that I can leave early if I need to? Do I overeat to cope with stress? Am I afraid of becoming suffocated by intimate relationships? Do I startle easy? Do I react strongly to caffeine or medications? Do I have a low threshold for pain? Now I'm going to get a little bit more into this. Having the threshold for pain is also physical pain and emotional pain. Me, for example, I have very high tolerance for physical pain. Emotional and mental pain, I cannot handle. So put two yeses or two nos or a yes or a no, whatever. Having a low threshold for physical pain or mental and emotional pain. Do I tend to socially isolate? Do I absorb other people's stress, emotions, or symptoms? Am I overwhelmed by multitasking? And do I prefer to do one thing at a time? Do I replenish myself in nature? Do I need a long time to recuperate after being with difficult people or energy vampires? Do I feel better in small cities or the country rather than large cities? And do I prefer one-on-one interactions and small groups to large gatherings? I'm going to give you guys a minute or two to calculate your yeses and nos.
Becca,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, what did you mean by ill? What does it mean by being ill, getting ill?
Like, do you feel like your stomach is turning, or does it get so bad to the point where it could get you nauseous, or can it get you so bad to the point where you actually vomit?
But not like panic attacks or anything.
Yeah, that's you getting ill from it. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. And then one of them, let me see. Can you repeat number 10?
Number 10, yeah. 2, 3, 4,
I think it was
11.
number 10.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Am I afraid of becoming suffocated by intimate relationships?
Yeah. Can we put down don't know? Can that be an option?
You could just put down no.
But I don't know if it's a no or a yes. That's that one that I think you and I need a one-on-one.
Okay.
There. All right. Thanks, Bex.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Has everyone calculated their results? Okay. All right. If you guys aren't ready yet, please let me know, because we're gonna do the, after you guys calculate, I'm gonna explain the rating scale. So I just want to make sure everyone is ready. Okay. So if you answered yes, 1 to 5 questions, you're at least a partial empath. If you answered yes to 6 to 10 questions, you have moderate empath tendencies. If you answered yes to 11 to 15 questions, you have strong empath tendencies. If you answered yes to more than 15 questions, you are a full-blown empath. So we have partial, we have moderate, we have strong, and full-blown. Full-blown here too. Leah, are you partial, moderate, strong, or full-blown? Full-blown. Bina, what about you?
Partial.
Partial. So you only answered yes to 1 to 5 questions?
Yeah, I think I got 9.
Okay, so if you got 9, then you're moderate.
Yes, sorry, I'm moderate.
Okay. Let's see, who else didn't I call on? Okay, I know that Shoshana mentioned that she was a full-blown empath. Ay. Okay. So you see, we all have different levels. I know that I'm a full-blown empath. I have like a lot of the package deals. All right, now we're going to be getting into the advantages and challenges of being an empath. And then we're going to learn some skills, shielding and grounding. Okay? So the advantages, the common advantages is being intuitive. Being able to feel the flow of the energy of the world, being able to read people, experiencing the richness of being so open to life and nature. Jennifer, so funny. She doesn't like being grounded. You're grounded, young lady. But we as empaths, we have some marvelous traits. We have huge hearts. We're dreamers and we're idealists. We're also passionate. We're deep, creative, and we are in touch with our emotions. We have a very high emotional IQ. We are compassionate and we can see the bigger picture. And we can look at situations from an outside of the box perspective. We appreciate other people's feelings and we become loyal friends and mates. We're intuitive, spiritual, and we can sense energy. We have a very special appreciation for nature and the world around us. And we resonate with nature, plants, forests, gardens, and we often love water. And we also feel strong bonds with our animals. And we often talk to them like they are humans. And we communicate with them like they are humans, like as if they understand us. But I'm sure they do. So that is the advantages of being an empath. Let's go over the challenges. We become overstimulated. We absorb the stress and negativity of others. We feel things intensely. We experience emotional and social hangovers. And some of them feel isolated and lonely. Many have experienced an emotional burnout. I go through that a lot. Coping with increased sensitivity to light, smell, taste, touch, temperature, and sound. Expressing needs in an intimate relationship. Let's go over the skills to prevent overloads. But before we do that, I wanted to cover something very, very, very important. We have to appreciate our sensitivities. When someone tells us that we are too sensitive or we need to toughen up, we don't have to listen. We just have to learn how to manage it. We are not crazy. We are not neurotic. We're not weak. We are wonderful, sensitive people with a gift. But all of us need the tools to cope. When we have sensory overload, we get exhausted, anxious, depressed, sick. And many of us feel like there is no on and off switch. But there is an on and off switch. It's called having healthy boundaries. And we're going to be learning that. What makes an empath's overload symptoms worse? Fatigue, illness, being rushed, dealing with traffic, crowds, loud environments, toxic people, low blood sugar, and it's funny, I have that. Arguing, overwork, chemical sensitivities, too much socializing, feeling trapped in overstimulative situations, such as parties and the such. Any combination of these conditions will intensify the overload. Now let's talk about what can help make our symptoms better. How can we unplug? How can we wind down? If I'm in a room with quite a number of people and I'm feeling a sensory overload, like too much energy around me, I disconnect myself from the environment. I literally walk out of the room. Most of the time, I go outside, go for a little stroll on the sidewalk, couple minutes just to take a couple of deep breaths. I literally touch a couple of trees and it starts calming down. And she's even starting to mention it. She often retreats to a room that's without sound or a bright light, you know, being able to just physically disconnect yourself from whatever's overloading you. Let's get into a shielding visualization for empaths. Are you guys ready to try a shielding exercise?
Absolutely. I should have learned this 50 years ago. Yeah.
All right, amazing. Okay, just go over this. All right, so make sure that you're in a very quiet environment. We're going to be taking deep breaths. And this is what we're going to be doing. I want all of you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. Ask Hashem to bring down his protective energy. And I want you to feel that energy coming out of your belly button where it starts creating an energetic wall. You can either see an energetic wall or you can feel a wall. And what I want you to do, I want you to take that wall and I want you to surround yourself with it. Let it be the colors, either white, pink, or purple. Once you have that wall around you, I want you to try to focus on your internal energy and I want you to root it to the ground to be centered. Does anyone need more time for this shielding exercise? Who didn't manage to visualize the shielding? All right, Jen, when we're gonna do a one-on-one, I'm gonna help you practice it because I think it's very important for you, okay? And again, it doesn't have to be visualization. If you have a hard time visualizing, just feel the energy or just ask Hashem's energy to surround you. And that's also good enough. Bina, how did you feel with this shielding? She's still here?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I walked away from my phone to find a comfortable place. I thought it was interesting. I was able to do it at the last minute. I did get interrupted, but it was good.
Okay.
I was impressed that I could see the colors because before I couldn't, but I could see white and pink, and I was like, "Whoa, where'd that come from?" But it was very big, and I had to like really like focus on it. But it was good.
Okay, great. I'm also going to be writing down the details of this shielding, God willing, in the email when I send out the class notes, because you know there's an assessment. But I want you guys to practice on a daily basis the shielding. Okay, it's very important. Now, the protection strategy, we covered this in the beginning of the course. If you guys need a little bit of a refresher, we can do that real quick. It's the Tree of Life meditation. Do you guys remember that? Or do you want me to go over it?
Please go over it because somehow I don't feel like I remember that at all.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so now this grounding exercise is good for protection, especially when we do the shielding right after. We just did the shielding now. I would highly suggest to do the shielding again after this exercise. This is when we drain our negative energy, any negative energetic toxins, and we're putting it into the ground. And we are filling ourselves up with Hashem's healing light. So if you can, have both feet on the floor. And if you have a hard time visualizing, then ask Hashem to do these steps for you because you're having a hard time with visualization. And just try your best to feel what's going on. Okay, so if you can't visualize, try to feel it. We have 6 senses. Okay, let's try to utilize all of them. So with this grounding exercise, we're going to take 5 deep breaths. Have both feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes. Say a small prayer and ask Hashem to release and drain any negative or toxic energy from within you or in your energy field to the ground. And I want you to slowly feel that it's getting emptied out. As you're exhaling, you're releasing negative energy, you're releasing negative toxins, you're removing it from your energetic field. When you get to the point that you feel completely relaxed and relieved of any negative energy or toxic energy, we say another little prayer and we ask Hashem, please bring in your healing light and fill me up with positivity. And I want you to do your best and feel that burst. If you can't feel that burst, that's okay. It takes practice. And then once you feel that little burst, I want you to take that burst and expand it out as a shield. I love this one too. How is everybody feeling?
That I'm going to sleep very good tonight. And I haven't had a good night's sleep in a long time.
Well, hopefully you'll sleep beautifully tonight.
Yes. Can I say something else about
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
Okay, so when you were, is there any way maybe that you could just like record just the shielding thing and then just this one, like snippets to where we could listen to it every day?
Oh, like to put on a voice record the meditation technique?
Yeah,
Yeah, I will definitely
'cause
do
that
that.
would
I'll-
help me. Okay,
Yeah,
that would-
I will definitely do that. And I'll post it in the group and I'll also send it to you privately so you could save it on your phone.
okay, that would help me out tremendously. So when the first one we did, you said like feel it from your belly button, and like
Mhm.
every time I breathed out, I felt like it was just coming from my belly button, and it was white, like like fingernails, like like the skin that Ava and Adam had. And that one you said feel the light when you feel like ask Hashem to bring in His healing energy and light. It went into my third eye.
Wow.
and it just kind of wrapped me up, and then I just kind of like, I don't know, like almost was like doing my arms out like to give me like this bubble, you know. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, hold on. I know Bina said something. Okay. So you messaged that you felt more heavy. Did you feel more heavy when you were trying to drain yourself or when you were trying to fill up yourself with Hashem's healing light?
When I was trying to drain myself.
Yeah, you're supposed to feel heavy.
Yeah,
'Cause
but I felt more, yeah. So I was just thinking maybe there's too much there to get rid of now. And I
Probably.
just have to work on getting rid of more. So
Hey,
I never had that
Yeah, go
right
ahead.
feeling to ask for the energy. So I didn't, I think I just stopped. So I was like, well, I'm not feeling it. So, but I figured, I don't know, are you supposed to completely feel drained before you ask for the lightness, or you could still ask for it and then that'll compensate for the
You can still
energy?
ask for it, you know, even though like if you still don't totally feel that you were 100% drained, you could still ask Hashem to fill up energetically whatever space you did drain out.
Okay, that's good.
Because I remember when I first tried this meditation, this was like maybe 4 years ago that I tried this the first time. Halfway through, and you know, I had someone guiding me halfway through, and I was knocked out. I was that like drained. I was that heavy, energetic wise. I couldn't even finish the whole entire meditation. And it took me some time, and I increased it, from once a week, did it 2 to 3 times a week. And now I notice that like whenever I drain myself of the negative energies and the negative toxins, I'm going to feel a little bit heavy. And I ask Hashem to fill me up with his healing light. And I do my best. If I can't envision it, I know I have that willpower and I believe in that. And I'm just going to do my best to feel that Hashem really loves me and cares for me and protects me and I know that he only wants the best for me. And whatever that feeling is for you, I take it, I bring it to my belly button and I extend it out, that I'm protected and I'm loved by Hashem. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
All right. So it's okay if you don't get it down to a T on the first time or even the second or the third. The more you practice, the more you do these meditations and the shielding, the easier it'll be. I'm even like a little super drained today, but I'm gonna do a little bit more meditations before I go to sleep, God willing, and have a good night's sleep. A few minutes. All right. How did you guys feel regarding today's class?
So much
Like,
of what you talked about. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I am so sorry, Shoshana. I didn't mean to interrupt you at all. Please go ahead.
Well, I think I finally feel validated for the first time, like in my life, for a lot of things, because I've always been told I was too sensitive and whatever. And I will cry. I will cry when I'm mad. I will cry when I'm happy. I'll cry when I'm sad. I'll cry when I'm tired. So everybody's like, you're just a crybaby. But you know what? I'm just extremely sensitive. And so I finally feel validated. And I know one of the most beautiful things I can remember Rabbi Goldberg telling me when I was going through my process was, because I told him, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I ended up crying every time that I went to his office. And, every time we had a meeting, I ended up crying because, well, of course, I wanted to be a Jew before it took me a long time. And, but he said, no, he said, you know what? He said, you cry because that's your emotions. It's part of your soul. And I don't want you to change that because you're very sensitive and the world needs more people that are very sensitive. So that was a beautiful thing. Anyway, thank you, Rivka. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate you too. Anyone else want to share how they feel regarding today's class? And then I'm going to get into next week's topic.
Rivka, this was incredibly validating. And the 2 exercises were just yummy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Heart. Bina, how did you feel with this class?
Sorry. I'm trying to think about it. I guess for me, since like I'm just like a moderate empath, like I'm not really connecting with it. I'm kind of disappointed a little bit because I was like, maybe secretly I have some powers, but but it's cool. I really like it. I like that last 2 things we did with the energy thing because I mean I still, even though like I'm not like full blown, I still have like sensitivities to people around me and stuff like that. So it's really cool. You know, as we get into it more, I'm sure like things will come out and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. But I'm like, oh, you know, kind of like trying not to feel bummed in a way because it seems kind of cool, all these different things that people have the ability to do, like talk to animals. I don't know what that's about. Or, you know, I'm sure some of the other things that people have are like draining and hard to deal with, but so I don't know. I don't have the same sensitivity, so it's kind of hard to feel the like that challenging side of it, but that makes sense.
In a way, I'm being really honest with you. Like, as much as I could love my intuition and everything that comes with it, a lot of times this overload or being a full-blown empath, I'm being really honest with you, takes a heavy toll on me. So if I had the option to choose to be a full-blown empath or moderate, I would rather be moderate.
Okay, that's cool. That's yeah.
So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, because first of all, like you don't have to deal with a lot of the overloads that we deal with, you know, and if you
Right.
have overloads, it's probably not to the same exact extent. When full-blown empaths go through overloads, we get affected sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. Last time I was like massively affected by a situation, it took me 3 months to fully recover.
Mm.
3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband, I think,
it can be
is more,
debilitating.
yeah, my husband is, I think, a full blown, and it bothered me when we were first married because he would have to come and he's a counselor and he deals with other people's emotions all day, which is like the worst thing. And he has to sleep it off. And I was like, you're so annoying. You just sleep all the time. But then as I learned more about it, I was like, oh no, that's what you need to do in order to overcome what everybody else is putting on you. So I was like, fine, so take a nap. I'm tired too, but you need it more. So it's like, I feel that too.
So you see, like, even though you don't feel like you're a full-blown empath, maybe your husband is, and now you're gonna maybe learn how to deal with it in a more correct manner and help him out.
Yeah, for sure. I have to get him on board because I think he understands it, but like he'll get the sciencey part more than he will the other side. Because even though he's emotionally in tune, that side doesn't come out more than the science side, which is very funny. You know,
If you feel that he connects to a lot of what's being discussed here, I give you permission to share this class with him. He could view it through your phone, or I can't give him special permission to access the YouTube, but he can, like, you know, view it either with the Zoom link that I'm going to be providing you, because I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So next week, we're going to be getting into empaths, emotions, and health. How to stop absorbing other people's emotions and distress. I look forward to this one. So thank you, ladies, for joining in today's class. I'm going to try to get the Zoom link out to you by tonight. Hopefully the class notes by tomorrow. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know, and have a wonderful week, wonderful Shabbos. God willing, we will meet again next week.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, Becca. This was really good. Have a good week.
Thank you, sweetheart. You too.